Hugh Jackman's always been Van Helsing, is what he says. That's what we start with.
That's what we're going to start on.
Sorry, we were talking because Halloween happened. We were talking horror films. Welcome to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk.
In the red.
Yeah, let me fix that. I'm your host, Caleb.
Hi, I'm Seth. I like to talk Star Wars with this man, and apparently I had an abundance of Hugh Jackman in my childhood.
Yeah, but we were talking horror films. We can talk a little bit about that.
We're talking horror games, horror films, a bunch of other stuff.
Because, Pixie, the reason I watched that movie, so our friend Pixie, who likes to be in the chat every now and then, probably is in the chat now, because normally she's just listening in.
If we say her name 3 times...
Pixie. Boom, Beetlejuicer. She's here.
Can you imagine how inconvenient it would be, like, if that worked for everybody?
Prozac. Or should I say, clown baby. Which I'm glad you have now seen that episode and get that joke for Always Sunny.
Like, I remember going and watching the Pepe Silvia episode.
Pepe Silvia! Oh yeah, and I fell asleep.
It doesn't work in this.
Now I'm actually going to message Pixie and be like, "Hey, podcast time," just in case she's not here. But no, so for Halloween for October, she was doing horror movies every now and then.
Yeah.
Or not even just horror movies. Some of them were just Halloween themed. Like, there was one really good one that I need to go back and watch. It was about witches, a family of witches, and about they like fall in love, but the people they fall in love with die. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Well, that sucks.
But like, it's one of them is about her trying to prevent like find her true love, and it's actually a really sweet film.
Does it work out, or is that monkey's paw?
It actually worked out.
Okay.
It's a really sweet film. I liked it, and what I saw anyways, and so, but she did the first Silent Hill movie, which of course Zach and I had to be the ones consulting on the lore because you weren't there. Hey, there she is. See, it worked. I was able to Beetlejuice her here.
Cow? You fucking phoned a friend. That's cheating.
We said your name 3 times before I texted you.
I don't think... I need a demon lawyer to be like, no, that one don't count.
Anyways, in her Discord, what was the name of that film about witches that we watched? Because I really liked it, and I need to finish it because I had to leave during it. But anyways, we watched Silent Hill as well, the first film, and so Zach and I were being the Silent Hill experts since you weren't there. You need to get in Pixie's Discord server.
So I can rant about fucking Silent Hill.
Or anything else. I mean, you're a practical magic. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
It was a really good film. I liked it. It was really sweet. So like a lot like not all of them were horror films, but they were like spooky season films. Yeah. And so, but yeah, we watched Silent Hill, and so Seth and I were talking about that before, where it was my first time watching that movie. But also now I know the lore as well a little bit more. I am not great on it. Usually Seth is more of the Silent Hill expert. But I think I got the fundamentals down when we were talking about it off air. I got the bare bones fundamentals.
You have missed...
Have I missed?
One of the best lines in all of the fucking Silent Hill games is the following line, told to you by a fucking lunatic madwoman in the middle of a church with a stupid necktie, where she encounters our protagonist, Harry, and shouts out at the top of her lungs, "It was foretold by gyromancy." And I'm like, Harry, we could just solve the problem
with dancing
this entire game if we shot her right now.
We could solve it with dancing, because gyromancy. But no, so yeah, because we didn't come back from the week after, because...
Oh, yeah, right. We disappeared for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, because the last week we left was when I was like, hey, we're taking a break because I'm going to go watch spooky season movies with my friends. And then we never came back.
Yeah, the slashers almost got you, didn't they?
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about which slashers we watched. Because the theme was slashers. I can pull up the list. Off the top of my head, we watched of course we watched the classic Friday the 13th.
Okay, yeah.
Or no, Nightmare on Elm Street. We didn't watch Friday.
All right.
We watched Nightmare on Elm Street. Friday the 13th should have been on that list, but we didn't. Nightmare on Elm Street's a classic, though. I think everybody there had seen it except for like one person, and so that was because we usually we take a vote on which ones we watch, and so everybody gets a say. And usually we try to get films that nobody's seen.
Fear Street on Netflix.
I have not. It's on my list.
All right, there you go, Pixie. I don't know if I have or have not. I don't think that I have.
I have seen like the advertisements, and from what I've seen, it's an interesting idea because it's sort of an anthology-ish thing, but yeah, cheesy slasher vibes. Like there's 3 different ones though. It's like a part 1, part 2. I think there's a part 3. It might just be part 1 and part 2. But it's kind of like it, where it's like separated over time periods.
Oh, okay.
There is 3. Okay, I'm not crazy for thinking there were 3. We also watched one of them we also watched The Strangers.
Okay, the classic or the remake?
The original one.
All right.
I don't think any of us wanted to watch the remake. From what I heard, part 1 for the remake is bad, is what I've heard.
Okay.
We watched The Collector, which was interesting. That one was a first time watch for me.
The art weirdo?
No. That's the name of the killer, but it's not.
Hold on. Sorry, it occurs to me that doesn't narrow it down very much.
I thought what you were thinking, but no. And then we watched Terrifier, which was my first time watching Terrifier. I now have to watch 2 and 3.
I haven't seen any of those films, so...
They are good. They're very over-the-top violent, but honestly not as much as you would think, but they're also, like, indie horror. Like, they're lower...
I see.
They're, like, slightly lower-budget indie horror, so you could, like... They can get away with that a little bit more easily.
Pixie would like to know if you've seen the others. I don't think I have.
You
no. Should. Probably. Mr. Movie Man.
We also watched Your Next, which was the first time I've seen that, which that was good. Your Next is good. If you like Ready or Not, or like The Menu, or those type of films where it's very much about like classism sort of thing, you would like Your Next. It's got that sort of deal going. And then one that I absolutely voted for because it was my first time watching that, and it's been on my list, Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is so good. I did call who the killer was, though, immediately. As a joke. But I was right. Which is all that matters. And then, of course, Jameson, who hosts these movies, was just trying so hard to gaslight me into being like, that's not who the killer is. It's never that person in these films. And I'm like... But what if it was?
Okay. Out of curiosity.
Okay, do we want to do a spoiler warning for it?
Spoiler warning for this.
Okay, spoiler warning for Thanksgiving. It's a fairly recent film, so I think it's fair to give a spoiler, because I think it only came out last year. I saw on Snapchat that you and Zach had watched Terrifier. Spoiler warning for Thanksgiving. It's Patrick Dempsey. Scream for you would know Patrick Dempsey in Scream 3. He is the cop.
Okay, cool.
You would also know because Grey's Anatomy, McDreamy.
Oh, all right. You know, this just... You remember my first time when we were sitting together with Scream 3? I was like, I don't trust people who are attractive in horror movies.
Now, but in Scream 3, he is the good guy.
Yeah.
He actually is legit, although they try... He's one of the red herrings in Scream 3. And in fact, he's canonically the one that she's still with after that, after Scream 3. Like, he's the one she's married and had a baby with. But anyways, no, he's also a cop in Thanksgiving. And then I said, oh, it's obviously Patrick Dempsey, ha ha ha. And then Jameson was like, but it's never the cop in slashers. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
God, I remember there was a movie I was like, we should go and watch this because it has such an interesting premise, but then it doesn't work because of, it doesn't work, but like it's obviously not a good movie. And I think there were 2 of them that I suggested, but I never got around to like owning a copy of. They were High Moon, in which a gunslinger from like the 1850s fights a werewolf motorcycle gang, and another one which was like Six String Samurai, which is a post-apocalypse thing where it's like we need to go to Vegas and become the king of Vegas. Because everyone got blown up.
Now, I will say you should probably be surprised that Scream did not make the list for slashers.
Really?
You would think I would have. Well, it was up on the votes at one point, but
Did it get vetoed?
It kind of got vetoed. Like not enough people voted for. Because what we do is everybody suggests like 3 movies, and then it'll get cut down to like 6. It'll basically be everybody gets 1 movie essentially, and so. It comes down to, like, eventually just getting voted off. And for the most part, while I enjoyed the idea of having Scream on there, personally, I would have put, like, the newest Scream on there, Scream 6. Yeah. I think Scream 6 is so good. Let's Let's see. Oh yeah, you should host one, by the way, for the others. I just let me know when, and I'll try to make it, and I'll try to have him in the server by then. I'll send him an invite, or you can. I don't care. But yeah, we also got to get you in Steph, so that way you can listen to our friend Britt now DMing D&D. And so, but yeah, it got kind of eventually moved off because one, a couple people weren't big fans of Scream to begin with, and then two, like, I had seen them enough that I'm like, okay, I love them, but also it's more fun to watch movies I hadn't seen before is really what I think is the fun part about those kind of movie marathons that we do every year. And so I don't know what next year's topic will be because we Jameson usually comes up with it like the month before, and then I think vampires has been joked around as one for next time because we've done nature horror, we've done comedy horror, we've done underwater horror, which got the Bay. The Bay's, ugh. That one's a Parasite.
Oh shit! Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, the Bay is. It's almost found footage.
Yeah, that's why I was. Thinking. I was like,
it's found footage.
And then I thought about it. I was like, oh wait, yeah, never mind. I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, it's got the Parasite in the water. Yeah, and then of course Jaws was part of that. Although we've had conversations with Dylan about whether or not Jaws counts as horror, because I think I can see an argument against it. You can make the argument that it's more suspense than outright horror.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made. Anyways, what'd you actually... I know Drew went trick-or-treating with Tori and her little sister. But what'd you guys get up to?
So, for Halloween night, I worked the closing shift at the store. That's what I did on Halloween.
Dang.
And then I went home. The night before that, actually. So, Tori's little sister...
Oh, it was the night before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's another story here.
Oh.
So, I go and I get done with my shift at work. Because I was working... I think I was working 12 to 5:30 that day. So I go and I'm like, okay, I have a little bit of money to get dinner before I go home. And Andrew... He's been working, he's been delivering stuff for UPS now.
Yeah.
So he can't always pick me up from work or take me to there.
Yeah, he told me he had a big schedule change recently.
Yeah. So I've been walking a little bit back and forth. Which, doing the math right now, that is 2.5 miles for a full trip. Which is good because I'll admit it, I need the exercise. On the other hand, it still sucks.
Because that's still 2.5 miles.
Yeah. So I go and I get my meal that I'm gonna eat for the next 2 days. And so I go and I'm walking. I cross over to the pathway, the little church that's next to us. Little is an understatement for that church. So I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. Walking past, and I see.
Are they doing a trunk or treating?
Tori, Kinsey, Haley, and their little sister are right there, kind of meandering about, and they look really confused. And I was like, well, if they're out here, they obviously have a reason to be here. And so I go and I just walk past them and I don't say a damn thing. I'm like, it's Wednesday. And I'm like, that's odd. Oh well, none of my business. They clearly have a reason for being here. And this has happened a couple of times. I remember Haley's cousin and her mom and Haley, they showed up in the Dollar General one time while I was also shopping there. And they go and they say hi, and I'm like, hello, goodbye, as I'm checking out.
I think it
was at the time when she and Zach were splitting up and divorcing, and my brain was like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to talk to them about? Hey, how's your divorce going? And I was like, I'm glad that thought remained internal.
And now it's out there for the whole internet.
Now it's out there, but it's been 7 months, so I don't have to say anything about it. Because I'm that all I know is...
Also, they don't watch.
Yeah. Who cares?
Drew might watch. Drew might watch, but that's about it.
He won't.
He won't. He watches my football videos though.
Yeah, he fucking does.
That's about it.
But there are times, like, when I'm walking out, I see people, and I'm like, I don't have any reason to talk to you right now. It's not because I hate people. Well, don't.
Don't. Yeah, don't.
Oh, God.
Pixie.
But, like, it's not because I'm like, I fucking hate this person and I don't want to talk to him.
It's just you don't. It's you have nothing. I would at least change it from. I personally, I can't act like I don't know. Like I can't do that level of separation when I'm at work. Like if I know you, I know you, and it's like, oh hey, how's it going? Like I would. Be a little bit more, but that's a difference thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a.
I think the problem with me is because I'm so used to seeing so many people at work. When I'm on my way home, I'm like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like I put on the polite. I'll make conversation with people, and I got. Here's one of the ones that I was not prepared for at work. It was so I go and I ask. This is on a Tuesday, I think. So I go and, like, of course, the lady comes up to check out, and she's like, hey. I'm like, hey, how are you doing today? And she's like, oh, I'm not doing great. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong? And she goes, oh, my brother, it's like my brother or my cousin died. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry for your loss.
And you're just not ready for that. Like, that's just a level of you can't be ready for that.
Yeah, I was like, that was not something I was prepared for. Sorry. Because, like, another, and I'll stop talking about how I treat people after this one. Yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go, and I'm getting off of work. It's been a really busy day because now it's the holiday season and everyone is filled with the spirit of I need to get my shopping and shit done.
Thankfully, I have yet to hear the infamous Mariah Carey yet.
She's coming.
She's coming though. It's the winter is coming. It's Mariah Carey is coming.
Mariah Carey is coming.
Rephrase. Rewind that.
I will not.
Rewind that.
I will not. I'll double down. Oh.
It's the O. It's just the O.
Look, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna keep doubling down. This
is how you know it's been too long since we've been on the podcast. We've just, I
got too much energy. Okay. So, as I'm checking out...
I guess we should take 2-week breaks more often.
As I'm clocking out, I don't think you've ever been on the side of me where I just say something in a matter-of-fact tone where I'm like, just completely done.
Yeah, I have not. I have seen it. I've seen you do that to other people, but I have not been on the receiving end.
Yeah. So I'm clocking out. Good for Mariah Carey if you ever show up. And
no. I'm gonna stop this there. Enough. Yeah. Okay. But yes.
As I'm clocking out, this guy comes up, and I've still got like my work clothes on, and he. Sorry. God
the chat
is not helping.
This is why we get Pixie though at the same time, because it's entertaining.
So this guy comes up to me as I'm finishing clocking out, and he's starting to put stuff on his register, and I just go, I'm clocking out, sir. She can help you. Pointing to my coworker. It's just it's the I'm done energy.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm not working right now, so don't bother me, except without the sorry.
Yeah, he picked up his head and was like, sorry, man.
Yeah, essentially. Please go fully fuck yourself.
Pretty much. Except it's still like there's
still
a tinge of politeness, but it's if you don't do what I want.
Yeah, like there's still that tinge because you're like, I'm still at my workplace, so if I say it this way, I'll still get in trouble even though I'm not on the clock.
For some reason, the district manager is really cool with me, and I don't know why.
It's that discussion you and I and Drew have had off camera though, of that. It's because they know that, like, they still need you at that job.
I've talked with my other coworkers. I'm like, you guys do know, like, jokingly, I'm like, I can leave if you guys want. Like, whenever I come back from break, they're like, oh, man, you're back from break? I'm like, I could leave if you want. I can take longer. But also, like, I show up on time. I get what I'm done.
Yeah.
But we've gotten sidetracked.
No, you're good. This is our what have we been up to, because it's been 2 weeks.
I know what you've been up to. You've been playing
Dragon Age the Velguard. Yeah, I have. For 10 hours, baby.
10 hours.
But also outside
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah. It's a very similar conversation to, like, so far, because I haven't, I haven't played enough to where I could give a full thought review on it, like complete review on it. But for the 10 hours I played, well, I played more than that because I've made a second character for my own sake off to the side.
Yeah.
Because for the main play, which y'all get to watch, I've made a dwarf, rogue, and Teven Crow as my character.
Okay.
But then off to the side, I decided, I figured you were lurking for a bit. I called it out. I said Pixie's probably lurking. Off to the side, I created a Grey Warden elf warrior just to see the differences in conversation bits.
Yeah.
Because already as an Teven Crow, there are certain interactions I'm having that are like, oh, this is specific to me being a Teven Crow. And then I haven't really had as much of that on the Grey Warden side as I thought I would yet. But I think, like, when that more Grey Warden specific things happen, that will come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, I appreciate. We love you for showing up. But yeah, man, there was a lot of bots on that stream. We caught like 3 bots in that stream. I think I just need to stop advertising when I'm live on Twitter, because that's when the bots appear.
I see.
Because it's usually like people that are like, hey, we want to sell you art. We want you to buy art. Like, they're trying to promote like new like banners and stuff. And it's like,
I'm
good. And it's like, it's also weird and unprofessional, I think, to go to someone else's stream and be like, hey, you should change your art to my art. Now, obviously, they don't come off that. Like, they don't.
I know
that's not exactly what they're saying, but that is what they're implying, right?
Sometimes I wish people were just that direct with what they wanted. It would save me so much trouble.
No, and we did ban them. I banned all 3 of them. And, like, it's even funnier, and then Britt comes into the stream to watch. Britt finally follows me for the first time, which Britt calls out herself. She's like, I'm a bad friend. I'm not following you. I'm like, no, you're good.
Right.
But no, and so, like... But yeah, we catch that, and then it's even funnier because then the bots start pointing to each other as bots. And so we just like, and so it's just wild. And so like a bot called out another bot, and then immediately started advertising, and we're like, okay, nope, ban. And so yeah, we just it's I think Twitter is just an awful place to advertise that you're streaming, I guess, because every time I do that, that's when they show up.
It might be.
We also get a bunch of them going into the Discord afterwards, too. And then, because, our Discord, if you're on Twitch, it's linked right there. It's the same thing on YouTube. It's, like, linked right below. So, like, obviously they just flood into there.
Yeah.
And so...
I do feel bad. Someone showed up, and we were like, hi, welcome to the server. And then they were like, "What's going on?"
And then you saw me ban them.
It was like, all right.
But they always show up that way. They always show up that way. They always like go, "How's it going?" and then never interact in the server after that, other than to advertise. And it's just like, or to like DM people, because that's the other thing is that Britt and I caught on is like probably a bot because they're like asking to DM us, and it's like, I don't DM you if I don't know you, like and if you are in my server, I'm not going to DM you right away. I'm going to get to know you in my server, in a public place, know who you are, and then start. Or if there's friend, like, the exception to the if I know you is if it's, like, a friend of, like, if we're in the same friend group. Like, Pixie. Pixie is somebody that I DM'd because I had common friends. But we'd also, like, hung out a couple times through Phasmophobia with those common friends. And then I started being like, hey, we have common friends, hi. I don't, like, you don't just DM people, like, it's weird to me. And so, like, it's especially weird on I'm a content creator, and so as a content creator, I have to be aware that I'm a content creator, and have to know that people that DM me, it's a different dynamic. And I think this is it's very important because right now a lot of people are getting caught in doing awful things because they take advantage of that dynamic. And it's something that I have to be aware of and go, I'm a streamer, I'm a content creator. If somebody I don't know who watches my content wants to DM me, that can be misconstrued if I'm not aware of that power dynamic.
Yeah.
And so, like, you got to be careful with how you self-perceive yourself and how you interact with people. And while it sounds bad that I have to think about that, that's just the reality of it, and there's nothing wrong with having to be self-aware about that. And I think it's not just me; it's every content creator that should be self-aware about that. And it's why a lot of content creators are getting caught up in doing bad things because they stop being self-aware about that, or they don't care about that self-awareness, and that's not good. It should be. I think it should be obvious, but it's clearly not. Yeah, and yeah, that got banned. But yes, what Pixie said, I will allow it because yes, somebody got caught up doing that because they weren't aware of their power dynamic, or they didn't care in the case of this person. And of course, I can't, speak entirely where they were coming from on a mental state, but I can tell by their actions that they were either not aware of their power dynamic or didn't care about their power dynamic, and either way, it's bad. And, that either way, it's bad. And so, getting out of that, though, let's get into some Star Wars. It's been long enough, I think I'm allowed to say the word. Even though she put the banned IRL word, it's been over 30 minutes. Yeah, so... I think it's only a 5-minute ban anyways, but it's been 30 minutes. So, let's get into... let's get into some news. And, first off, New York Comic Con happened, so we got some covers for Star Wars books that are coming out that look amazing. This is for an audio drama. This is for the next audio drama. This is for Tempest Breaker. It's so awesome. We got Markion and, of course, Lorna D, because obviously the audio dramas have really focused on Lorna D, except for, obviously, Phase 2's, because it was a flat, in the past, so Lorna D wasn't born yet. But the ones that we've had that are Phase 1 and Phase 3, Lorna D specific. And I think Lorna D's also had some great character growth in Phase 3. But you haven't gotten her entire arc yet because we haven't finished the comics.
I keep not finishing the... where I keep leaving off is, like, God damn it. Skir's apprentice, whose name I should know.
Oh, Keeve.
Keeve. Keeve is like pointing over at Lorna D, and she's like, "Look, we're Jedi. We're supposed to be better than this. A child is crying in the arms of our most hated enemy right now." No offense. And Lorna's like, "None taken."
She's like, no, you're right. She's like, no, you're right. And in
Also,
fact,
fuck you.
Lorna D's kind of like, I agree with your point, even if it makes me look like a bad person. But I like this. I like this art. And then of course we got some more Lorna D here, along with because this is our comic, so
things are not going well for the crew.
Yeah, this is Fear of the Jedi issue 2. Of course we got our young adult and middle grade novel. So Claudia Gray doing Into the Light for our young adult one, and of course it's our boy Wreath on that cover. And then
Wreath, how you doing?
He's been not so great lately. A Valiant Vow. So we got Justina Ireland doing the junior novel. All this I'm scrolling through Star Wars Newsnet just so we clarify where we're getting our source from. And it looks like Emery's back. It's good to see Emery back.
Emery got his dukes up.
Emery working with Tep Tep, which I like the Tep Tep design here. I like it. And then of course we got like the armored version of the Jedi, our main characters, because they are.
You know it's serious when the Jedi start putting armor on.
Because Charles talked about his new comic Trials of the Jedi as well. About a new comic as well as the Trials of the Jedi book, and it's talked about how they're basically prepping for war. And I like the armor. It looks a lot like the Guardian, like the Temple Guards.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Also, Aslan Rail getting one too.
Fuck you, Aslan. You don't get armor.
I talked about this in the car with you.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting another Acolyte novel from Tessa Gratton. This one is The Crystal Grown, and it looks like we're getting some more of, honestly, one of the best characters. Or Crown. Sorry, I read that as a G for some reason. The Crystal Crown.
Okay. It does have like a weird little thing.
It has that weird C, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're getting more Jecki, which I think a lot of Acolyte fans, even people who didn't like the Acolyte, admit that Jecki was one of the best parts.
How could you not? Who doesn't like Jecki? Heartless monsters.
And then of course we got like the mixed opinion character Yord as well. Mm-hmm. But you have to because that's their master and they're like their dual apprenticeship sort of deal. And I kind of like, I don't mind Yord as much. He's different, but that's because he's meant to be the way, like he's meant to counteract like what type of Jedi exists during that time. Lastly, at this big panel, which we have another Star Wars panel, but this is the first panel, we got a new comic book announced. It's another mini-series. This one is just called Jedi Knights, and it's set before the Phantom Menace, and it's supposed to look at different Jedi. So we even Count Dooku during his Jedi years. Qui-Gon, Yoda. And this is being done by Mark Guggenheim, I believe. Yes, who gave us the Han Solo and Chewbacca and the Yoda comic. So I think that's kind of the right guy to get for this.
Okay, yeah.
Because I did like the Yoda comic. I think that did a really good job getting into the Jedi mindset, like Yoda's mindset, over the span of his life. And then here's our first couple variant covers for that. And then that was the first panel. Not F12. I didn't want to look at the websites like back. I wanted to get out of full screen.
I need to see the code.
Then we had our Dark Horse panel where they talked about the comics they're working on. We've known about the Qui-Gon one for a minute now for Hyperspace Stories because they decided to go graphic novel with Hyperspace Stories rather than individual issues. So we got the Qui-Gon one, which we got some panels of that now. And that's supposed to come out in March because it's been pushed and pushed and pushed because it was supposed to already be out by now. And then they announced a Grievous one and a Mace one as well. Which Grievous one I think could be interesting depending on when. I'm kind of done with Clone Wars Grievous. I want to know about pre-Clone Wars Grievous and how he became the Grievous we know. Because in Legends we have that, but we don't have that in canon.
God, with Grievous, it's the ending of Hellsing. Why are you a cyborg though?
And then, of course, they talked about Bad Batch Ghost Agents a little bit, which is one that I'm fine with being a Clone Wars era one, because we don't have a lot of Bad Batch during the Clone Wars. We've got the one arc, and then we've got the Bad Batch show, which is after the Clone Wars. So, I'm fine with more Bad Batch content. On top of that, Alyssa Wong will be writing a one-shot that's called The Battle of Eriadu. Which is going to show two best friends at odds with one another. And, of course, it's Drigget and Gavi, according to the not final cover that they showed at the panel. Which I think that's something that we've been waiting on, is Drigget and Gavi's story to continue. Because we escaped from Valo.
Okay.
Yeah, because remember, they both kind of... Gavi stayed on Valo to kind of keep track of Drigget, and we never got a follow-up to that yet. So, because Gavi still thinks that there's hope to get Drigget on the right side of things. We got some news about dispatches from the Occlusion Zone with issue 2, and a little bit about issue 3 and 4. We also got news about the Phase 3, Adventures Phase 3 annual.
Hold on. Scroll up a little bit.
For the Occlusion Zone stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Alyssa Wong's working on issue 2, which is going to follow Crash on a mission, which makes sense because Crash is Alyssa Wong's baby.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Daniel Jose Older's working on issue 3, doing a buddy cop sort of issue. Because each of them is like how the short stories have been, where they're like separate stories. And then issue 4 is going to have is that the reason you want me to scroll up?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Cavan Scott having Ty York and Lorna D.
Nothing can go wrong.
And then we got some details about Adventures Phase 3's annual, which we got images of a flashback for Stellan and Vernestra.
Mm-hmm.
That one's gonna hurt. I can already tell. Oh, and then lastly, Ethan Sachs, the bounty hunter writer, is working on a Poe Dameron comic. We don't know if it's a one-shot, a miniseries, or an ongoing. We've had a Poe Dameron ongoing before, but Marvel did it. This is Dark Horse, so it's going to be different, and I'm kind of curious how... whereas the one that Marvel did kind of filled the gaps between Poe Dameron before Episode 7, and then a little bit of between Episodes 8 and 9. Well, 7 and 8 didn't really give anything on 8 and 9 that much, because it would kind of came out before that. And then, so I'm kind of curious if this is a one-shot, a miniseries, or what's going on. But Ethan Sachs, I trust. Bounty Hunter was really good, and Ethan Sachs has proven I think he's proven, like...
Yeah. Speaking about bounty hunters for a minute,
yeah.
I was thinking about this, and until, like, Boba put a job out for other bounty hunters in the comic, I was like, I didn't know you could do that. And then I thought, well, why not?
Yeah.
But it seemed like it was
it's just
underhanded.
It's a bit underhanded, because it has to be... you have to no longer really be a proper guild member for the Bounty Hunters Guild to be like, yeah, we approve that. Mm-hmm. Because that's kind of the rule, is that you can't...
And then I thought...
Is that Bounty Hunter Guild members are off limits, essentially.
Yeah. And then I was like, but the job isn't on them, so it's one of those technicalities.
Mm-hmm. And so we had the Marvel panel as well, so Marvel also had their panel. Mm-hmm. We got a Legacy of Vader comic, which is going to focus on Kylo Ren, and it's supposed to be between episodes 8 and 9.
Okay.
So that 1 year gap, where we don't have a lot actually in that gap, so that's actually kind of the perfect spot to put stuff. Mm-hmm. And also more Kylo Ren, not a bad thing, I think. And so... Oh, and it's going to show, like, how he got to Mustafar at the beginning of Episode 9, and because at the beginning of Episode 9, he's out on Mustafar. And Fortress Vader. Cool. Okay, so that's going to be fun. That starts February. We got some pictures from that, which I think look good. And this is from, I think it said Charles. Yeah, Charles Soule. I trust him on this. He knows how to write Vader. He knows how to write Kylo. Charles Soule knows what he's doing when it comes to Darksiders. Let him cook. That's just my opinion on it. And that's really the only major thing we got on that one. And that's it for New York Comic Con news. That's a lot. Overall, though, I think that's decent. I think we're good. I didn't really need too much news yet on movies. I think I'd rather let them figure out what they're doing than hear any movie news. I'd rather them work on them before telling us anything. And then going into a shift, we got some new steelbooks coming out. Let me double check. I meant to double check before we went live which ones we've already gotten. I know we've got Mando 1 and 2, Seasons 1 and 2. I know we got Obi-Wan. I know we've got... I'm trying to think if... I want to say Andor also has... Yeah, Andor has its steel case as well. So really, this is finishing up the Disney Plus Star Wars content then. Because the only thing that doesn't have a Blu-ray that I would like... Or I should say it's finishing up their live-action content. I would like to see Bad Batch get Blu-ray release. You could probably put honestly, you could put all 3 seasons together, but they're not. They're going to do what they've been doing with each personal season, if they do it. Clone Wars Season 7 should also get a release, because then I can finish my Clone Wars collection over there. Because I have all the seasons, except that one on home video. But we're getting Mandalorian Season 3 and Ahsoka now. And of course they're going to include extra features, which are really the reason to get these, besides also having physical collections if you care about that. Which I personally do in a world where we have to worry about that. Oh, correction. We're missing Book of Boba Fett and of course Acolyte, which it just... I mean, but Acolyte is also recent enough where I'm like, oh...
It makes sense.
It makes sense. Book of Boba Fett's a weird one, though. I feel like that should have came out already. Because arguably Book of Boba Fett has importance to Mandalorian Season 3 because of the Mando episodes that are in there and also explain things that are in Mando Season 3, such as Din having Grogu back. You know? But...
And the dumbest fight that happens, I think, in all of Book of Boba Fett is the one that happens in the Mandalorian episode.
Oh, is it the...
I should be king. Well, fuck you.
Oh, the Paz Vizsla fight? Yeah.
It's the... I should be the leader. Alright, fine.
Take it from me.
Take it from me. A minute later. Okay, well, you're exiled. Yeah, but I'm still the leader because I won. Shut up.
But that's it for news. I think, I'm surprised we're not as further behind on news as we've been gone for 2 weeks.
Oh, God.
You want to get into today's topic, though?
Yeah.
Because we are almost an hour in.
All right.
So...
He made me read this fucking book.
Yeah, we read Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising.
Didn't make me read it. I chose to read it because he asked.
So, the first chronological Thrawn novel, which is why we read it first for you. But there are people who would tell me that I did you dirty by making you read this one first. There are people who would say that we should have read the Imperial era Thrawn books first. And they're maybe right. I don't know. I personally am still a purely chronological defendant.
I know. Most of it. I don't know what the other options were because I haven't read them yet.
It was basically read this or read the Imperial, not the Legends ones, but the actual canon ones, the ones that take place during Rebels.
Okay.
Or, well, one of them slightly before Rebels, and then yeah. So, but also you wouldn't have had context because we haven't watched Rebels yet. So, at least for the show, I've watched it, but you have not.
Yeah. I know there's a boy with blue hair and his lightsaber turns into a gun.
You should know his name. He was in Ahsoka.
Yeah, but I keep calling him by a different name that's wrong.
Jabba the Hutt?
No. I keep calling him like a Magic the Gathering card.
Oh. But his name's Ezra.
Yeah.
Is it?
I keep calling him Urza.
Yeah, I was going to say Urza. Yeah.
Not Ezra.
Hey, you're close though. It's better than your which one is it that you always it's better than your Highlander Richie and Reggie. At least with Urza you can make an argument that it has the same letters.
It has the exact same letters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though, but you can make that argument though. Whereas so at least there it's the same letters.
Oh my god, poor Richie. It's so dirty.
And honestly, his episodes are some of the best.
They are good.
Anyways, we're getting off topic.
Anyhow.
Well, yeah, so this book though really steeps you into the politics of the Chiss Ascendancy.
God, the only two characters in this book that I really cared about are Thalius and Sherry.
Oh, yeah, Sherry, yeah. Sorry, I did the audiobook for this one, so...
Is her name pronounced...
It's like...
Is it Cherry or Sherry?
Sherry. It's that second one, yeah. And so, I have a few questions. Mm-hmm. So this being your first...
Yeah.
First Thrawn book, and your first, I guess, by default, first Timothy Zahn book.
Yeah.
Did the man live up to the hype?
So, I was like... the problem is, I have seen him in other media.
Well, I meant even Timothy Zahn. Did Timothy Zahn...
Did Timothy Zahn live up to the hype?
Yeah.
I don't know who this fucking guy is. So there wasn't any hype at all.
Okay, so you managed to avoid the Timothy Zahn as one of the best Star Wars authors hype. that is basically like one of the biggest things about the Star Wars like book side is that Timothy Zahn is always at this level, and then like Claudia Gray has gotten that same kind of prestige now in canon writing, but because Timothy Zahn's been around longer. Like, he's been around since Legends. Like, he's the guy that basically we wouldn't have Star Wars books the way we do today without him. Because when he wrote the original Thrawn books, the Heir to the Empire trilogy, back in the 90s, which is also when Star Wars was dead at the time, because we're talking about the part of the 90s where we didn't know if the prequels were on the way yet.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. I think we knew, but we just didn't know when. And, like, at the time, Star Wars writing wasn't, like, books weren't, like, coming out the way they are now.
Yeah.
Or even in later eras of the Legend era, right? Because, like, I'd say the 2000s is really the strongest era for Legends writing. So, like, he kind of is the reason we're here.
Okay.
In that, there's an argument for that, right?
Okay.
And so, in fact, a lot of people argue that the Heir to the Empire trilogy should have been what the sequel trilogy had been based off of because of how the Heir to the Empire trilogy almost presents itself as a sequel to the original films. And so, because they're about Luke, Leia, and Han, but have Thrawn as the big bad.
Okay.
And so, so that's why Timothy Zahn kind of has this air of importance.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are.
And so that's why I was curious about your thoughts on that, because I didn't know how much you knew about that, or if you knew at all, which now we know. No.
I'm gonna say something that sounds really dumb. Mr. Zahn, there are too many fucking unnecessary words in this book. Which sounds really dumb, but I don't know.
I would like to hear what you mean, like your specifics on that.
So, there are so many times when I'm like, okay, I get you need to spin, and people use too many big words in this book,
Mm-hmm.
but where I'm like, it would make the word count higher if you use smaller words, but it would be a lot easier for people to read.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you feel like sometimes you feel like he does the thesaurus thing where
Yes.
he looks for a big word and uses that.
Yeah. You're
Okay.
lucky I understand about 80% of those words, but fuck you.
Yeah. Also, I pointed something out to you in this book that you're like, oh, I didn't know that was here, and it would have made it so much easier to... Timothy Zahn understands that he is a world builder, and he does a bit much on the world building side, depending on what you define as too much. So he has dramatic persona in his books. Usually he does. So that's nice. I appreciate that about Timothy Zahn. That's something I will always appreciate, is that, okay, if you're going to throw me into a part of Star Wars where I don't know what's going on, at least give me a list.
Yeah. I didn't see that list until before we started.
Before we started filming, and I was like, hey, good thing he does this, and you're like, oh, I didn't know he did that.
Didn't know he did that. That would have been useful. So I kind of had to guess, and I was right for the most part.
Yeah.
There were a couple of things
which I think that's a good sign, though.
Yeah.
If you're able to guess still and be mostly right, that means that the writing was at least enough to explain, like, there was enough in the word itself to be like, the work itself to be self-explanatory without overdoing it.
Yeah.
And so I really like... This is going to kind of be more of an interview, because I'm kind of curious, because I've read all of these before, and I'm a Timothy. I've met the man before. Timothy Zahn's a really nice guy. He goes to a lot of conventions. If I see he's at a convention, I guess we'll have to go together so you can meet the man and then tell him you think he writes too big of words.
Just mid-conversation with someone, just fuck you, use smaller words.
No, but...
It's not...
Yeah.
He actually did really good.
I'm
just mad.
And then, of course, and so I've actually seen him on panels with Claudia Gray, because they've done, like, how do you work within an IP to get, like, because that's the thing, is how do you write for IP? And it's not usually you reaching out to them, it's them reaching out to your agent, because you've already proven you can write original work.
Yeah.
And so, usually you have to do the legwork of writing original work before an IP reaches out to you, is the big thing. And so, and usually you're not pitching them. Although Timothy Zahn is big enough where he can pitch them and be like, hey, I want to write more Thrawn books, and then people will go, yeah. Because, in fact, he worked on Rebels with them to keep Thrawn in character. Same thing with the Ahsoka show. Like, he had a hand, because they want to keep Thrawn as this character. Because I will say, I think book Thrawn and TV Thrawn can be slightly different sometimes.
Yeah, they do feel different.
But also, we're talking about, at least with this book and Ahsoka, there's decades.
A huge time
there's
gap.
decades apart. Yeah, we're talking about the Clone Wars era versus the late Clone Wars era versus an Ahsoka post Return of the Jedi, like at least a 20-year gap.
Yeah.
And so you get what you. So you were saying your favorite characters were Sherry and Thalius, which I agree. I like that. I like Thalius' story. I like Kilori as a kind of underhanded little weasel.
I remember reading through Kalori's first chapter. Ah, fuck. Okay, fine.
You're like, this is the weasel. Okay.
Yep.
Because Thrawn Ascendancy is... There's a thing in the Thrawn novels that you will pick up on. Timothy Zahn loves to write intriguing politics.
Mm-hmm.
And backstabbing and Game of Thrones level, like, intrigue. Because that's really... that's really what the aristocra, at least in the Chiss Ascendancy, it's very much them playing political games.
Yeah. I'm like, alright.
Like that. And then, of course, like, we talked about it. You're like, in the car on the way here, you were talking about how, like, you don't like the Ascendancy. And it's like, well, yeah, because they work on a caste system, and they've got, like, the 9 ruling family, so it's like a feudal Japan system with caste system on top of that.
I'm like the American in me is having a...
I need my freedoms.
I need my freedom. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, but also on top of that, a fair argument that Keylori makes is that, and the reason that he doesn't like why he's a bit of a weasel and why he acts the way he does is that he, along with a lot of the other, like,
because
while the Chiss are our protagonists,
they
are racist. They're
very racist.
They are xenophobic as ever, and they are very much.
Yeah. When Keylori was like, yes, the blue skins, and I'm like, that seems kind of mean. And then I remembered, oh wait, no, they're just as bad.
If not worse.
Actually, they are worse.
And it's just like, oh, yeah, wait, the Chiss are our good guys, but they are also bad. But also, like, this is a case where nobody comes out clean.
No one looks good in this book.
Like, but I think that's the point.
Except the Garwians. The Garwians are okay.
Yeah, like, I think that's the point, though, is that nobody here is a good guy.
Yeah, no. Even Mr. Yiv, the Benevolent, I was like, well, alright, fucking great.
Yeah, and then, of course, we have our mystery voice at the end of the book, which I know what's coming up, but you don't. And I'm intrigued, because this is supposed to be our great threat. This is... Because in Legends... I'm going to make some comparisons here.
Okay.
So, this is something where they're kind of taking a lot of Legends ideas that the Chiss Ascendancy are dealing with and putting them into canon, but they're changing up what the thing is a little bit. Because the reason that Thrawn joins the Empire is, hey, there's a threat in my home space. Because remember, Thrawn is in the... He's in the unknown regions. He's in the...
Okay, I figured...
That's where the Chiss Ascendancy live.
I was talking with Chris about it. I'm like, it's either in wild space or the unknown regions, and I'm not sure which.
Yeah, the Chiss live in the unknown regions.
Okay.
So that's why, like, there's no, like, connection to the wider galaxy that we know. Because they're just so...
Yeah.
They're in a different neighborhood. They live in a different neighborhood.
You think the tax bracket's better than the Republic?
I don't know. I feel like...
Or is it different because they use a different currency?
It's probably different. It's probably, you know... I would assume they go off a system where... very much like our own, where the rich just stay richer, and... Because especially with the caste system, you're telling me that the lower people in the caste are getting money?
Fuck no, they're not. Oh, God. Ranking...
Oh, yeah, it's the...
I'm gonna try and see...
Okay, I'm gonna pull it up, yeah.
Okay, so there's the Patriarch.
Yep, that's for the political hierarchy, yeah.
Yeah, there's, fuck, that's an entirely different thing then.
Yeah,
there's Blood, Cousin, Ranking Distant, Trialborn, and fucking... Initiative?
Merit adoptive. But you got 4 out of 5. So like...
I was like, Initiate.
4 out of 5. And so, like... And, of course, we get the flash... I think my favorite part about this is actually the flashbacks, the memories parts. Getting to see Thrawn, like, where he comes from. We never see anything
from Thrawn's perspective. We just see everyone's perspective about Thrawn.
Which I think is also a smart choice on a writing end. Yeah. Like, it keeps the air of mystery about Thrawn as a person. And, like, while we, as readers, understand Thrawn's mind already, like, because even if you've watched just Ahsoka, you understand Thrawn's mind a little bit. Like, you understand that he is always, like, he is Sherlock Holmes, but evil. And so, like, he's always, like, thinking differently. And, you know, I said this earlier. He's a little bit... I said this off air. He's a little bit autistic in his... But, like, he's very much autistic coded, I think.
Like, I remember reading...
And whether that's intentional or not, that is something that I come away thinking. I don't think that's something that Tim...
was intentional.
No, because he's always been this way, even from from the 90s. Like,
I was, like, reading it, going through his, like, art thing, and I'm like, I kind of get it. I don't think it works that way to that extent.
Oh, like, being able to understand cultures just from their, and, like, their battle tactics,
Yeah. I was like, that's not quite a one-to-one thing, but I get it.
And so, like, I see Thrawn, and so, like, being able in the memories to not actually be in his head, but to see other people's reactions to him, I think is interesting, because, like, we get Thalius's interactions in the memories, where because of meeting Thrawn, she's like, I want to change my life to revolve around the Myth family now, and to maybe try to live up to what Thrawn would expect. And then when she finally has that talk with him in the present day, going, hey, you changed my life. Thrawn is so caught off guard.
Like,
he's
fucking why?
He's like, wait, what?
It's like,
and then, like, on top of that, it's not even a good memory for Thrawn.
He's like, oh, you mean that day where I, like, embarrassed
I got, like, 30 demerits for doing this?
Yeah. They put me in the coal mines for that.
Essentially,
for being a smart ass.
Yeah, like and so it's like, and then because of that, Thalius has to rethink her memory of that, where she's like, oh, this was a good memory for him, but
this is a good memory for me, but a bad day for him.
Yeah. And so it's very interesting, and of course, I like the Skywalker. We talked about this a little bit as well. The Skywalkers. I like the idea of these, because of how the Unknown Regions works. Is it's just uncharted.
They call it the Chaos for a reason.
It's just so uncharted.
Yeah.
That they use the Force to guide themselves through it. And then
a great comment from Thalios is she's like, it's called the Chaos because it's chaotic. It's not some idiot's idea.
It wasn't some, like, brilliant, like, oh, this sounds cool. No, it's
you fucking hard out there, man.
And then, of course, of course,
Thrawn making sure that the child is recharged is a nice thing.
Yeah, and I think that
everyone else is kind of an asshole.
I think that's also why Thalios isn't entirely wrong with her idea of Thrawn as a person. Because Thrawn does... I think it's less that Thrawn cares. It's more he knows that if the entire team is on the same page, the team can do better collectively than if we separate people based on the fact that they're a different group.
Yeah, Samarco's over here being like, man, I fucking hate Thrawn so much, but he is good at what he does, and he is my commanding officer, so I'm not gonna give him too much shit.
Yeah. And then, of course, I'm just going through the list of all these characters because they're just so good. Thurfian is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's a syndic. He's high up on the hierarchy, so he thinks he's better than people.
Arlani being...
Although Thurfian does acknowledge Thrawn's, like, capabilities.
He's a smart guy. We just need to keep him away from politics.
Yeah, because that's another thing. So, like,
throughout the entire book, they're like, he's smart, capable warrior, great at almost everything.
Terrible at politics.
Terrible politician.
Yeah, that is not something that changes. That is something where Thrawn needs to learn that he's bad at politics. He does not in this trilogy, but he will once he starts interacting with the Empire, because it is something that, you know, you gotta... Thrawn is bad at identifying his own weakness. Mm-hmm. That's probably his great weakness, is that he can't identify his own weaknesses.
Yeah. There is... Once again, I think another great conversation between Thrawn and Thalios. I don't know if it's still the same one as earlier. It might be a little bit later in the book, where Thrawn's like, oh, I have difficulty of seeing people as people. I see them as, like, allies. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Arlani sees her team members and other people as people.
Arlani's one of... I have a sticker of I got Arlani sticker on the back of my second monitor. I mean, I've got Thrawn on the back there too, but I love Arlani.
Arlani and Bakif are great.
Arlani is probably gonna might come out of this as one of your favorite characters, and she continues to be in some of the other Thrawn novels outside of the Ascendancy trilogy. So
she's going to die. I can see it.
But she's such a great character. Arlani's great. Because
They're not going to keep her around. They won't let her.
Because Arlani is somebody who acts as Thrawn's grounding.
Mm-hmm. Sounding board.
Sounding board, yeah. She's the sounding board where she's like, hey, maybe this isn't a great idea because... And Thrawn actually, respects her, but also that's because Thrawn's smart. He knows to respect other people a lot of the time when it comes to... He may not be good at politics, but he will respect somebody else who comes to him with good advice.
Yeah. Bakif also being like, well, I mean, technically I've signed the papers and everything, so you guys can just go on and do this. I'm gonna step out from a cigarette break for a good 3 days. I fucking love General.
But we can talk about the actual threat of this. Yeah. So the start of this is essentially it's not quite a false flag operation, but
it's almost
where General Yves, who is starting this rebellion against the Chiss, because he's like, we're done. We've been under the Chiss ascendancy for too long, and we've seen how they treat people. Along with sort of. That's sort of his reasoning, but of course.
No, I meant I have misunderstood something then, because I thought that Yves was an independent.
Well, he is independent, but
the threat is if we keep letting Yves do his bullshit on the corners and keep conquering.
He's saying for the other for the others that's what I meant the Nick Ardoon are not actually under personally.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
They're not personally under the Ascendancy, but he's talking about the other, because he is partnering with those other groups, right? Because he's spreading his, the benevolent, he's spreading his good word of freedom from the Ascendancy, right?
Yeah.
And so, but they attack the home world of the Chiss.
Which is a bold fucking move.
And then, of course, the Patriarch are like, who the fuck did this? How did this happen? Because there's no signs on the computers of these ships of how this happened, and because they're like, we have their crashed ships, but we still have no info of how this happened. And so Thrawn is one of the people they get to investigate this, because who else would you send?
Yeah.
Even if the Patriarchs are like, fuck that guy.
Hate him, but he does good work. All right, send him.
They're like, he goes. It's like Mission Impossible. Whenever Tom Cruise has to go rogue every movie.
Everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
But you know what I mean.
It will get resolved.
But I mean specifically Tom Cruise goes rogue every Mission Impossible movie. He never stays with the actual mission, the actual spy group. He always goes rogue from them. And so that's what I feel is how they think of Thrawn, but in reality, he never really is going rogue. He just does things not quite by the book. In the memories, we get the test where he's on trial because they're like, you cheated on the test.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, he just did a trick that the test caught, because the test was like, oh, if this was done in real life on the computer systems, it would trick them into thinking he went invisible. But when you're viewing it with just your eyes and you're not actually trying to kill him, then you can still see him.
Yeah, and the
because then they do the in real life test, and they're like, we can still see him, and they're like, yeah, but that's because we're not going full force, and you're not looking at the computer monitors like we are. If you looked at the computer monitors, you'd see his ship isn't there.
Yep. Thrawn uses the same trick essentially 3 times, which is just to basically turn off his ship and let gravity do the work.
Well, and then do little spinning tricks.
Yeah.
I also like the vectors in this, which is funny that vectors are in this, because the High Republic didn't exist yet. And so I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So they're using like older ship models, or are they just calling a different ship model a vector?
It's more likely the second one.
Yeah.
Because vector in math is actually just an angle.
Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? Because like...
yeah, it's a common thing to call ships in space settings.
But not in Star... Like, in Star Wars, they have specific
like, there
names
are
for ships, yeah.
names for the class and styles of ships.
And usually in the books, they go by the name of the ship. They don't just call it vectors. So I am curious if the High Republic people thought, hey, we should tie that in, because
maybe
I don't think obviously Timothy Zahn didn't plan it, but I found it interesting listening to that. I was like, oh yeah, vectors are in this, and maybe it's the same ship model, but maybe it's not.
It's the way that I thought of it. I was like, you know how all skiffs are boats, but not all boats are skiffs.
But not all ships are vectors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how my brain processed it.
But yeah, so I like the conflict though. I like and then of course
Yiv is a pretty good bad guy. Like, he's not an idiot.
No, and that's what makes. I mean, you want somebody that's not an idiot to be going up against Thrawn. Like, if you have a dumb villain, then this isn't gonna work in a Thrawn novel, because you need somebody who can almost be on his level of, because you need somebody playing chess against Thrawn. You need
Thrawn doesn't do good against people who are just, I'm just here to fuck you up, man.
Yeah. And it also just doesn't make for an interesting Thrawn story. I mean, you can have somebody that's just not as smart. Like, you can have that. It's just they shouldn't. It just means that Thrawn shouldn't be your protagonist in that. It means he should be the antagonist in that. If you have somebody who's not as smart but is stronger, they should be the protagonist. And then if you have somebody as smart, then they should be the antagonist.
I do, another great one is Kalori. Another great thing that happens in this book is Kalori leading Thrawn over to Yiv. And Yiv and Thrawn just have a quick conversation. And Thrawn's like, anyhow, I have to leave now. And Yiv is explaining to Kalori, is like, oh, what, you didn't think we were having a fight just now? And he goes, nah, man, we did, and I don't think I won that one.
Yeah, it was just we were having a verbal sparring match, essentially, and yeah. But yeah, what I was saying earlier, because I didn't even finish that thought.
Yeah, sorry.
So Legends versus, like, there's always this greater threat in the beyond space, and so that is what, obviously, this book ends with Kalori reporting to that greater threat. And, of course, it's always why Thrawn runs to the Empire in every version of Star Wars. So, like, in Legends, he joins the Empire for a similar reason of, there's a threat to the Ascendancy and the beyond regions. I need a strong ally for that.
Yeah.
And of course, at the time, the Empire is usually in operation, and usually the Empire, to him, is the stronger choice than the Rebellion, because he sees, oh, there's more strength in this. And that's usually why he takes that side.
Yeah.
In some versions, he continues to believe in the strength of the Empire, as we see with, like, in Legends, he becomes essentially the new emperor, heir to the Empire. He kind of takes out all, because during that time they do the warlords thing of, there's a bunch of warlords that took over the Empire because
the
there's
power had to go somewhere.
Because power vacuum. And then Thrawn eventually is like, nah, I'm the top dog. And so heir to the Empire trilogy, he's like, I'm top dog, I'm in charge now. And we kind of get that same kind of story in canon going on, because that's what Mandalorian Season 3 kind of implied, when we see, like, the council of the Imperial, like, remnants, where they're, like, talking about how, like, that council, and you have, like, the
all the Moffs are hanging out.
All the Moffs, and what's his name, oh, I forget, all of a sudden I forgot his name, but dad to bad guy to the Weasley bad guy, and because you know how in Force Awakens, Weasley actor, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't. But I remember the importance of that scene.
Anyways, yeah, it's
there's a bunch of bad guys.
And they're like, oh yeah, but when Thrawn comes back, he's gonna be in charge.
And they're like, if he comes back.
Yeah, because at that time, Thrawn is still like the highest ranking.
Yeah.
Usually in each version, like he's one of the highest ranking. Like in Legends, he's one of the only.
What happened to everyone else? They're fucking dead, man.
Yeah, like he's the only like Grand Admiral, right? In Legends, which puts him highest military rank. Because Grand Admiral, there was like 12 in Legends, and then they revealed, oh, Thrawn was a secret 13th Grand Admiral, and then he took over after, and Luke, Leia, and them have to deal with him. But in this version, we kind of get a similar thing where, like, now in Legends, the great threat is the Vong, which I have my opinions on the Vong. I've shared on the podcast before. I'm not a fan. I think the Vong storyline went on a little too long. Also, they're not as interesting as people like to pretend they are.
I can't make any statements on that. I have not covered that material.
But here, it is a different threat, and I was worried we were going to get the Vong 2.0, because they're described very similarly. I'm not going to give away too much about them yet, but they're described similarly in other books. But I've seen a recent image, because they are in Thrawn Alliances, which is the most recent comic adaptation of one of the novels, which is during the Imperial era books, because like I said, they've been adapting the first two books. Well, they've adapted the first one after the first book came out, but then they never adapted Alliances until recently, and so in that they showed them. They look different, and so I'm less concerned that they're the same thing.
So. Counter question.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Zestalmu? Because Zestalmu and Thurfian are always plotting some shit.
Like I like the politics. I like the little. Yeah. I am a fan of Timothy Zahn's little Game of Thrones politics with the Ascendancy.
I'm basically like having an internal argument. Between I'm like, okay, the politics are fine over in that corner, and like because how the Chiss operate at this point in time is like there's military and there's the political. They are not supposed
to completely
intersect.
Yeah,
and there are times when like it's clear that one is trying to get in on the other.
Specifically, the politics trying to get in on the military.
Yeah, and they basically go, "Would you mind staying in your lane, please?"
Well, because Syndic Thurfian does it so many times. Like, the reason Thrawn is as far up in the where he is, it's honestly because of Thurfian. If we're really gonna be, if we're gonna be, well, it's also because of Thrawn's own capabilities, right? Yeah. But like Thrawn,
it's a mix of the two.
It's a mix of the two. Like Thrawn has the capabilities. It's just nobody respects him enough that if it wasn't for Thurfian, he wouldn't be where he is.
Yeah.
And it's something, it's a common theme for Thrawn, is Thrawn has the capabilities, but people don't respect him, and therefore he always needs somebody on the political side to bump him up. Mm-hmm. You'll see that also when we get to the Imperial era for him. Same sort of situation. In that case, he makes friends with Palpatine.
Well, that probably helped.
Yeah. Being friends with the Emperor is gonna, it's gonna help.
Yeah.
Obviously, that doesn't stop people from being entirely racist to him, but
well, don't worry, that's typical.
That's the Empire. I mean, that's the Empire for you. I mean, he's the only in the. I mean, even in Legends, the fact that he's one of the only non-human Grand Admirals is a point that is made.
Mm.
And so, similar situation in canon. It's like, you're not a human.
Sorry, I was going to make a joke, and I was like, I'll leave that one be.
And so, but yeah, you see that a lot. And then, of course, Thalesia, my brain.
Is Thalius pronounced
differently in Thalius. It is Thalius. You are right. It's Thalius. And so Thalius is also the only reason she's on board the ship is because, once again...
Thurfian
steps in.
I need a spy so someone can keep an eye on Thrawn.
not to like report like because I trust
but,
him, but also like just to make
just to make sure that Thrawn doesn't do anything crazy. Smash cut to the end of the book where Thrawn is doing everything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, straight up inventing the lie that the Chiss take family hostages.
My favorite though is at the end during the final fight when like because they're using because the way they catch Yiv is actually really smart, and it's basically, hey, there's a group called the Pathfinders, also different from High Republic Pathfinders, where essentially they're the actual like people working on the computers with the Skywalkers to get you places, but also
there are Force.
There's Force-sensitive Pathfinders, and
which is what Kalori is.
Yeah, Kalori's Force-sensitive. And the way it works, though, is very similar to a Skywalker.
They do the same thing, they're just called a different name.
But they are part of a larger guild called the Pathfinders Guild, where
Pathfinders are not supposed to be sellouts.
Yeah, basically...
Kalori is the biggest sellout.
Basically, Pathfinders cannot tell where other Pathfinders are going. Mm-hmm. And that's, like, part of the company agreement. Is like, hey, you're part of the Pathfinder Guild, you're a member of this guild, which means you don't tell anybody where other ships are. You only work on your ship.
In exchange, you get an office and we pay you.
Which is a pretty sweet deal at the end of the day. Yeah. It does still put you on the lower end of the caste system in the Ascendancy because you're not a
I keep
Chiss.
Thinking that, like, to me, like,
because like they're different.
Within...
I mean, they're different like they're different governments, but the way the Ascendancy works is they're very war-like, where they're very much taking over territories that aren't theirs a lot of the time. But so is Yiv.
I only have this one book to go off of, so my assumption is that when dealing with the Leonii, the Garwins, and the Nicardun Destiny, I was going to call them Collective, but that's not what they're called.
The Nicardun Destiny,
I keep thinking, I'm like, okay, these are 3 other entirely separate government bodies.
They are, but they're also
not a part of the Chiss Ascendancy.
They are and they aren't. You know what I mean?
I'm like, these are at the border of the Chiss Ascendancy, which is why it's important
for the Chiss
to know.
But everybody is crossing each other's borders, is what I'm getting at. And so it's like, while they're not under the Ascendancy in the usual like meaning of that, they are in the sense of the Ascendancy is going to push the boundaries of the borders. But so is everybody.
Everyone is always pushing.
And so, like, because of that, everybody, whether you're a citizen of the Ascendancy or not, you're under the Ascendancy to some degree, especially if you're working within their military structure, like Kalori is.
Yeah, Kalori keeps working with these guys, even though he really hates them. But that's because Thrawn keeps asking.
But Thrawn does this thing that he is not supposed to do, and Kalori lets him, which is, hey, tell me where Yiv is, essentially.
He's over there. Pretty much, that's how that conversation goes.
And so they get there, but then another ship is there as well, and they don't know if they're allied or not with Yiv, so they're like, well, we're not going to fire on them just in case, but if they fire at us, then we'll fire back. Yeah. So be ready to fire back, but don't do anything.
Yeah, they use the no preemptive strikes strategy, where it's like, oh, well, they shot first, who cares?
Yeah. And so, but because of that, my favorite thing about that part is Thrawn then going, all right, Kalori, you can't tell anybody what we did here, because if you do, then I will make sure that it is known that you were part of this, and that you get kicked out of the Pathfinders. And not only that, I will make sure that the Chiss never work with the Pathfinders ever again.
And Kalori, after thinking on that deal or no deal offer,
it's like,
decides, alright, cool. I didn't have anything writing on this.
And then, of course, while agreeing to that deal, immediately goes back on it and goes to our mystery voice and goes, hey, so this is how he did that.
Yeah. Like, admittedly, in that moment, Kalori is like, I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, he's in the middle of a nowhere ship, and yeah.
And you know what?
It's like a derelict ship, yeah.
Mm-hmm. While I was reading that, you know, the, like, I just remember, like, going like this, like, fucking again? Because this happened, like, 9 times in the course of, like, just video games and Star Wars media and other stuff where it's like, oh, there's an ominous voice on the radio on your ship. I'm like, fuck you.
But also, Kalori's a little weasel, like we said. So
Kalori's
of course,
a little weaselly bastard.
So of course he's
snitched. You don't have to do anything to him; he'll just do it. He's the worst. He sucks.
But once again, like, I get his perspective of why he doesn't like the Chiss, but also
because they're jerks.
But also doesn't excuse anything he does either. Once again, this is a case of nobody comes out clean.
Yeah.
But I think that's the appeal to this. Like, there are so many Thrawn stands and so many Chiss Ascendancy stands. I get why. It is a very interesting culture with a lot of gray in like the storytelling, and it's why, like, but also it's very clear Thrawn is not a good guy. And so like, I think that is a separation that as fans we have to make of, like, Thrawn is a great character. Thrawn is amazing as a character. And he comes from a very interesting culture. But he's also a terrible person. Can you make arguments for a lot of what he does? Sure. But also he still exists within and helps a fascist regime, because the Chiss are also very much that. I think that's also the thing that maybe your little spidey senses are going off about, because while it's not made as clear as it's not as clear as the Empire, right? The Empire, it's so clear what they are.
There are weird moments like when I see things that bother me, and I'm like, I'm just going to assume this is like the American or like a weird thing where the back of my brain is doing something that I don't like. I know that I don't like it, but I don't know why. Like, you remember Robot Planet from Mandalorian?
Yeah.
It's the one that has Jack Black in it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, why did it bother me so much that, like, when the Mandalorian showed up, and I was like, oh, right, it's because this planet's laws use, like, oh, well, weapons are a part of your religion, and I was like, that's a little shady. I understand why you did it. I feel like it's a little fucked up that you treated them that way.
Yeah, but how they treated the robots, yeah.
Not the robots.
Oh. Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Mando.
Yeah, you can see why I would have some concerns there.
Yeah.
They also just...
Although there is a problem with how they treat the robots in that society.
There is in the robots as well. Where I do like the speech that the robot gives where it's like, oh, we're gonna live forever, essentially. So what's like a year or two to us, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, fair point. But still, no.
Yeah. And so, like,
to me, that entire episode kind of felt wrong, which
that's what
is also what this is.
And I think because the Empire is so easy to identify what's wrong with them, it's harder when it's something like this where there's a lot of gray going on. And then, but you can still identify it because you're like, oh, there's similarities here. And it so easily then explains why Thrawn would feel so comfortable with teaming up with the Empire. And why in Ahsoka, while a lot of people were hoping that Thrawn would have this redemption turnaround, people were hoping that by the time of Ahsoka that he would be different and that he would realize, oh, the Empire wasn't as strong as I thought, and maybe I should team up with Ezra.
Yeah, like 20 years of isolation. Me and Kiara were actually having a similar discussion the other day about like things that are like sealed evil and good in a can, where it's like you never know. People will either come out of situations like that.
You either turn around,
or more hardcore than they were before.
And that's a real thing. Like you either
because it's like if you had showed up maybe like 5 years earlier, you would have had an entirely different conversation.
Like it's a case of you either start to rethink your beliefs and have a turnaround, or you double down on them.
Yeah.
And in the case of Ahsoka, we see that Thrawn hard double down to the point that he was hunting Ezra that entire time. Where a lot of people were hoping that, oh, maybe Ezra and Thrawn were forced to survive together and therefore had to, team up and actually, change each other's beliefs a little bit. But that's not what happened.
Yeah,
And so,
as I understand it, I didn't see the end of Rebels, but you left Thrawn with too many resources for that to be a viable option, even on that isolated planet.
well, yeah, because Ezra sent the... So, basically, spoilers
He used
he used the
Borg
Purgle.
removal.
He used the Purgle to force Thrawn's ship to jump, because the Purgle can, hyperspace jump naturally. Because that's what hyperspace is based off of, is the Purgle being able to do that within the wild. And so he forces Thrawn's entire fleet to go into the unknown, into the new galaxy that we see in Ahsoka. Which maybe the argument was, well, everything crashes and it's just Ezra and Thrawn, right? That's what a lot of people were thinking. But in reality, nope. A lot of the stormtroopers survive. A lot of the ships are probably, while not completely intact, there's enough where it probably works just enough.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the Dathomirian witches that are living already in that. Well, I shouldn't say Dathomirian, but the Night Sister witches that live in that galaxy as well, that Thrawn makes a shady deal with, which I think that's not a case of where Thrawn actually wanted to team up with them, but I think it was a necessity.
Yeah.
I think that's a case of Thrawn.
Fuck, I gotta make another deal.
I think that was a case of Thrawn knew, in order to get out of here, I need them.
Yeah.
And plus, since he already knew Morgan Elsbeth, he was like, well, if I work with these Night Sisters and I have them contact Morgan, then I can get out.
Yep.
And so yeah, Thrawn was in a can and decided to double down.
Yeah.
So, and I think...
I'm not surprised by it.
No, and I don't think most people are. It's just most people are kind of just disappointed because they were hoping Thrawn would have this arc. But Thrawn also just works really well as an antagonist.
Yep.
He works well as both. I mean, I wouldn't even say he's really the main protagonist of this book, though.
He's not.
Like, he's a protagonist, but I would say
it's more...
Thalius is even more, like, because I'd say Thalius is the reader's perspective, like, because you know how in a lot of things you have somebody who is the newcomer-ish. Yeah. Thalius is the newcomer, right? Thalius is the reader's perspective character. Like, while she has existed within this culture for so long, not in the same way as Thrawn.
Yeah.
She is new to the military structure. She was a Skywalker who then retired and has done really nothing since.
But then again, just Ascendancy, we see how fucking serious they take their Skywalkers.
Yeah. And so, like, if there was any other, like, point of view character...
I'd say it's probably Kalori of all
Kalori, yeah, ironically Kalori, or even Sherry, because she's so young.
Yeah.
Because Sherry's so young, so, like... But, Timothy's on...
I know that Kalori's full name is, like, of...
Yeah, it's the whole...
Shit,
Yeah.
But I'm calling him Kalori the Snitch. From now on, anytime I see him.
I'm going to let you give your rating first, because I'm curious.
I'm tempted, out of spite, to say, like, 2, but that wouldn't be true.
That wouldn't... Yeah, it wouldn't be... Yeah, you're like, in my heart, I know it's not.
Gonna go with a tentative 9.
Okay, that's higher than me, actually.
Might go lower.
I kind of put it on an 8 or an 8.5, depending on the day.
Yeah,
because
I'm
like
trying not to do half numbers.
Yeah, so I would go 8 then, and then mainly because it is.
Fuck you, Timothy's on you small.
I think it's a good world building book. It's a good start to this world building. I think as we get through the Ascendancy trilogy, it's just gonna build up from here. I think, and so that's why I'm leaving room for growth on my score by doing that, because I know it's not gonna be the highest out of those.
I do like the cover art. It is pretty sick. And
honestly, they kind of keep that idea of like it's not what's next, but I can show you the cover for it. It's not the next thing we're reading. The next thing we're reading is the new Mace Windu book. But like they keep the
like the
little serpent theme and the chaos, like that's the chaos essentially. And they keep like the colors dynamic, which I really like the red and the black and the gray. Because in this one, Thrawn is gray, but here it's like he's being overshadowed by the chaos coming in.
Good visual cover design. The story is great.
Yeah, you're just like you're iffy about like some of the stuff, and so yeah. It's a case of first book of a trilogy, so like a first book isn't always the best, like it's not always the strongest of the trilogy. Sometimes it's even arguably the weakest, depending on a trilogy, depending how a trilogy ends. So that's why I'm leaving it at an 8 so that way I have room for like, because I like to leave 9s and 10s for like really good stuff. But Timothy Zahn I respect, so that's why like an 8 I think is a fair judgment.
As mad as I am, I'm gonna keep that 9 for now.
Yeah, I mean there's always room to change.
There's an asterisk next to that 9, Mr. Zahn.
Is it how good the next book is?
It depends on how good the next book is. It may be lowered or higher.
That's fair, because sometimes it's hard to judge one book in a trilogy when the whole trilogy is out without looking at the trilogy, because you're like, this could be bad or it could be good if it fits well within the narrative. So yeah, that's a fair assessment. But that's going to be it for this week. Thank you everybody for watching.
Yeah.
Be sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff depending where you're watching. We're on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, Escape Reality Films. I'm also on TikTok at Escape Reality Films. I think today I'm going to try to play some more Dragon Age on stream. I was going to yesterday, but like we didn't even do D&D because I was just tired. My head was hurting. I just wasn't up for it. I did upload another Dragon Age Origins video yesterday, but that was like without video or commentary because I was just like, that's just where I was. But I still wanted to do a Dragon Age Origins video because I want to do one every day. Yeah. So I'm going to try to do another one today as well.
If you have the time and we get the chance, I do want to sit down with you as you, like, if you ever decide to play through the Silent Hill 2 remake, I do want to do that.
I might do the whole trilogy, like, I might do all the games if I do a Silent Hill thing.
Okay.
Because that's just me. You know me. I know. That's my problem, is I jump into, I know Silent Hill 2...
You don't have to.
Does it? I know, but it's the same situation as when Jared Shoemake got me Dragon Ball Z, and he got me like the one weird season where he was like, "Here's a season." It was the Majin saga.
He started with Majin Buu.
He gave not even Majin Buu, the Majin. So like before Buu showed up. So he gave me just that season on DVD, and I was like, this means I'm gonna have to watch the whole thing. He's like, I know, and I was like, no, I mean not just Z. I mean, Dragon Ball. And he was like, you don't have to, though. I'm like, but I do. That's just...
Oh, God.
And honestly, I prefer Dragon Ball.
That's fair.
I like the goofy fun times.
Yeah.
Although I could do less with naked Goku. That was...
Yeah, well, you're going to have to deal with it.
I could do less with that. Toriyama, that was a weird decision. Rest in peace. But that was a weird decision. I'm actually interested to see the new Dragon Ball show, though.
Daima?
Yeah, I've heard some good things. I've heard it's a good time.
I haven't sat down to watch it yet.
And I like Super more than most people. Super's weird.
Super has its moments of...
I think it has some really good villains, though. I think it has some of the best villains in a minute, though.
I can see that, yeah.
Like, I like Goku Black Arc. And then I like... I think that's just a good arc, honestly.
Can someone give my man Future Trunks a win? He could really use one. Like, without some bullshit going on where he has to travel back to the past.
But yeah, so that's just me, though. I like to go through an entire... It's the same reason why I like Diablo, like, we're doing the Diablo runs, because people are like, we could just jump to 4 because it was the newest thing, but...
I don't want you to play Silent Hill 1 and 3. I want you to.
It's just you don't want me to play Silent Hill Origins.
You don't have to play Silent Hill Origins or Down.
Nobody should.
Or Homecoming.
From what I heard, nobody should play Origins.
You shouldn't. Even
what I mean by should, I mean it's a bad game, is what I've heard.
Even Silent Hill 4 is when things start to get questionable, but that game does have some merits.
Yeah.
The main thing I'm trying to think is 1 and 3. I don't think they have remakes on modern consoles.
No, they don't.
So you would have to go.
It would be PS2 stuff. Well, I have ways to make that work. Okay. I have a PS2 also.
Actually,
also there's ways to make that
I was also
work
thinking
still.
I might have one in my room. I don't have a copy of either of those games though.
But anyways, maybe we'll save that for the next spooky season. That could be next year's spooky season stuff.
Either the Silent Hill 2 remake or Evil Within 2.
Yeah, so that could be next year's spooky seasons games.
Evil Within 1 is also in a similar position of like there's a story there and it's a fun game except for all the other parts where it isn't.
Is Evil Within the one that they did a remake of recently?
I don't think so.
Or is it a different one? What's the one with David Harbour that they did as a remake? It's a remake.
David Harbour.
The sheriff from Stranger Things.
I don't know.
They did a remake of one of those type of games. I forget which one. It was one I played a demo of and I liked it, but
I don't know.
I didn't get the full game.
I know Evil Within you play as Detective Sebastian Castellanos, one of my favorite video game protagonists.
I'm gonna look it up real quick and then we'll finish the outro. Sorry, we got
you're right. I've distracted people, namely you, audience, and also Caleb.
Yeah. David Harbour horror video game. Alone in the Dark was the remake.
Okay, yeah.
Same vibes-ish, sort of, no, but... it's still like that weird survival horror with...
It is survival horror.
It's just a different type of survival.
Different type, yeah.
I did like the demo for that, though, for that one. So
that
Alone
one
in...
has merit.
Because even the original Alone in the Darks have merit, so... but yeah, anyways.
It's a first real encounter with cosmic horror for a lot of older games.
Yeah, it's that Eldritch, but anyways, like I was saying, you can find us on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, TikTok, Escape Reality Films. You can join our Discord, which is also linked down below. We also have a Patreon if you really want to support us. Shout out to Jennifer Brantley.
Yo.
But yeah, in our Discord, you can hang out with us. We do D&D nights whenever I'm not feeling and whenever we can get everybody rounded up together. Yeah. We usually at least have one on Fridays. That one the Grim Hollow one at least usually happens. Acquisitions, I think we only have one scheduled for this month. Because it looks like all the other weeks didn't work out. I think this week we are having Ravenloft, where they're going into Castle Ravenloft this week.
Oh no, the sirens. Whatever shall they do?
Yeah, what are they gonna do?
I could have put more effort into that.
I'm actually interested because like they've actively been avoiding going there.
They're like, oh, you mean where the main bad guy lives? Yeah, sure. Let's go into his house. And it's like, well, you guys want your friend back?
Which it's kind of weird because the Curse of Strahd book writes that as the 4th chapter.
It's like, go to his house, said the game.
And it's like, no, said the players. But it's also an open world, like Curse of Strahd is an open world game.
Yeah.
It's one of the most open world modules ever. And then the reasons to join our Patreon is because then you get our YouTube content early. I think that's it on my end. Speaking of D&D stuff, though.
Trials of Nebu is on hiatus at the moment.
Oh, but you can still check out their backlog.
Yeah. You can check them out at Steam_Dungeon on YouTube.
Yeah, there's some friends of ours. We mentioned one of them, Kiari. Great dungeon masters on all ends, because I don't know if they post both Keontae's and Kiari's games, or just
Keontae's.
Okay. But yeah, but Keontae's a great dungeon master. I've played under him for a bit.
I'll talk of some stuff off air.
Yeah. And so I'm interested to have everybody see what's been going on with that. Yeah. Also, you can check out shout out to our friend Pixie, who I think is still just lurking because she was busy. but she did show up, and we love her. She
She
does.
blows me up with explosive barrels when we're killing aliens.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever we play First Descendant, but also she does a lot of variety streaming. She's on a hiatus herself at the moment, but you can still check out some clips. There's some funny stuff. She plays some spooky games, some chill, kind of cozy games. She's all over, and so always a good time though. She's really funny. Plays some Fortnite sometimes too.
Yeah.
So
You might be able to catch us hanging out with another friend of ours.
is there somebody else I need to shout out that I?
Are we doing one of the things?
Oh yes, reasons for Discord is we also do watch parties. We didn't do one this last Thursday because it was Halloween.
I misread the date for that, and then I remembered why you weren't there. I was like, it's real quiet in here.
Oh, did you show up?
Yeah, I showed up, and I was like,
I'm sorry, buddy. Yeah, it was a last minute change because she was like, "Hey, it's Halloween." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I don't have plans." But then now I can stream Dragon Age because that's when it came out. It came out on Halloween, so it gave me that. And so she's gonna be hosting My Little Pony season 2 somewhere this week. So we moved it to this week, upcoming week, I should say. So this Thursday, because we usually do Thursdays as our movie nights. We've been cycling through 3 different shows. We've been watching My Little Pony on Brit's Day. We've been watching Highlander on my day, and now Stephanie has a day where we've been watching Kevin Can Fuck Himself. We finished season 1.
So I had to step out. We can talk about that in the car.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll have to somehow get you to finish season 1 on the side, but or at least talk about it. At least catch you up.
I was during watching it, I was like, am I going fucking crazy?
Well, it's an interesting. Well, because of the premise of them going from sitcom to drama.
Yeah. I was like, God.
But now we're in season 2, which means we're in the thick of it for that one. I think that's going to be the week afters, because I think the cycle is me, Britt, Steph. So, if I've been keeping track correctly, it'll be Steph after My Little Pony this week. So, I think that's where we are in the cycle. But we've also said that you might get a cycle once your work lets you have Thursdays free.
Time.
Because you want to introduce us to, them to some movies.
Yeah, some movies
and shows.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know which we'll do first. I feel like a movie might be easier to start with, especially since we could do one even within the current way, because even with work, if I remember, it's only barely a 2-hour movie.
Which one? There's Kroll and The Quick and the Dead.
Kroll.
Yeah.
Both of them are short, though.
Yeah.
Both of them,
movies. They're very short.
Neither of them goes over 2 hours, I think. Yeah. So that would be one. Those would be like the type of movies that you could host, that you could still show, and then you go to work after. Like, those are ones that you could still host on a week, and then so probably not host because your internet is
not that great for it.
I will probably host the movies, but it's ones that even if you step away, you've seen. Like, you know them. And so those could be the Seth suggestions, even if he has to leave week.
Yeah. I don't know how they would react to either of those movies.
Quick and the Dead's fun, though. Anyways, that's everything for this week.
Horse cannot be killed
before we go on to another tangent, we will see you all next week. We're going to talk about Mace Windu: The Glass Abyss, which is a book I've been excited about. And I've heard good things. Because it's been out for a week now.
Windu's gonna Windu it up.
Yeah, I've heard, because it's been out for a week now since we took our week off. That week off.
Do you think Windu gets buff from being around shattered glass? This is a very stupid joke.
I don't think so, because he went out a window.
Oh no, they foreshadowed his doom.
Anyways, that's next week. Thank you all once again for watching. Y'all have a good one. I hope everybody had a happy Halloween. I've spoken.
Y'all be safe out there.